Did you know that there's a lot more to Pinterest SEO than meets the eye? Would you love to be able to see how Pinterest sees your pins and how they're ranked? Well, if so, then today's show is for you. Hello, folks. I'm Jeff C. of Manly Pinterest Tips, and I'm here with my co-host, Elisa Meredith, content manager at Tailwind, and our special guest, I'm so excited, she is super uber smart, Jennifer Priest of Smart Creative Social. Not that you're not smart too, Elisa, but you're too smart. No. Two smarties. We're so happy to have all of you guys on. We would love to get to your questions during the show today. So as we're talking, feel free to ask your questions down below, and we will try to pull those up the best we can. And always, as we're going today, and I know they just do it every show. Elisa and Jennifer are going to drop some super smart nuggets of wisdom. If you see those, go ahead and type those down below and put the hashtag Tailwind Tips, and you could be entered to win one of our very cool Tailwind selfie lights. Very, very awesome. So as we're going, any nuggets you see, or even nuggets that you have found that works really good for you, add hashtag Tailwind Tips and drop that in there down below, and we would love to see that. And also, light up the love right now. We would love to see that little button going crazy. That helps get our show out as well. But ladies, thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited.
Thanks, Jeff.
What were you doing? Were you shining your light?
I was showing off my light, and I was thinking, man, we need to get one to Jennifer.
For sure. I mean, she's got to have one.
My phone's naked.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
no naked phones on this show.
No, this is the family show.
That's right. No naked phones. Right.
And yeah, I'm super excited about this topic, Jeff. So.
Yes. I'm raring to go. I know we're going to have tons of questions, but I also want to make sure that if people haven't done it yet, that they can download the Pinterest Toolkit that I know you spend a lot of time and put a lot of resources in. If you want to get this, it's bit.ly/Pinterest Toolkit. It's chock full of awesome templates and all sorts of things. So if you haven't grabbed that yet, it's totally free. Go to bit.ly/Pinterest Toolkit. What were you saying?
Yep. I was just saying, totally free, and that's all lowercase, no hyphens, one word. We did that in partnership with Easel. So when you get the templates, you get them in Photoshop and in Easel, and you also get a discount if you want to upgrade your Easel, which you probably will after you try the templates. Yeah.
Easel's awesome.
Yeah. So Jeff, I think I told you I'm going to be speaking at Agents of Change next week up in Portland, Maine, my hometown. Super excited to be going. But I wanted to branch out a little bit. I usually talk about promoted pins when I speak, but this time I was like, I want to do a little something different, because that's how we learn, right? We learn by teaching. A lot of us do. So
that's right, exactly.
Yeah. So I spent a couple days, and one of the days was at the beach, reading the Pinterest engineering blog, which is not something I typically do.
Yeah, that's some deep reading right there.
Oh my word, I think I read every article, the 3 articles 10 times each. Took some notes, rewrote the notes, and then made a presentation, and then showed it to somebody. And huge process going into this, but you guys, there are so many gems in there, and I feel like they're giving away the secrets to Pinterest success in there. So we are going to break them down for you today. You will not have to watch this 12 times in order to understand it. I promise.
Yeah, and I'm surprised you're not like bright red, because I would have fallen asleep like the first blog of the Tailwind Engineering. I would have fallen right asleep. But you made it through there, and seriously, it is some high level stuff. I mean, I'm very proud of you. That's really great. I would have been like bright red and burst into flames or something, because it would have been horrible. But you powered through for all of us.
Yeah, there was very little crying involved. But I know Jennifer spoke at Social Media Marketing World last year, and she talked about how to get your pins seen, and she's an awesome speaker, but just a lot of little knowledge bombs, as we talked about. So let's just jump in. Like, there are kind of a couple different sections to it. One is the first one, the biggest one probably, is how Pinterest sees your pins, like how they categorize your pins. And that is absolutely crucial to getting your pins found. So there are several different factors that go into that. And the first one is keywords. Keywords, of course.
Okay. That term's banded around a lot, keywords. So are keywords the same on Pinterest as they are on regular SEO? Let's break it down for people who have not Now, we're on a
Yeah.
podcast, so you can't just shake your head. You have to acknowledge, because we've got to keep going here, okay? You got to work with me, Elisa. Work with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's actually putting together what you get from the engineering blog. There is a list of about 9 things, and it's possible that Jennifer has more than I was able to find. But one of them is pin title. So it's that thing that when you upload a pin to Pinterest, you put in the pin title, then you put in the description and the URL and the image. Now, if you're using Tailwind, you're not going to be able to manually enter a pin title, but that's okay, because Pinterest goes to your website and looks at the rich pin data to pull out that title that is set on your blog. And if you don't have rich pins enabled, or if they're not working for you at the moment, it will pull the first part of the description that you enter. So just make sure that your keywords are like pretty much everywhere, but title is that first one. So Jennifer, I'm curious if you have tried like manually changing those titles, or if you just kind of go with what Pinterest pulls out for rich pins. What do you do?
Oh yeah, we totally change the titles. And so one of the things that we do is, and this is something that I advise my clients and people and members in my program to do, is optimize on a lot of different types of keywords. So like, let's say you have this blog post and you've got multiple sections within it. Each section's addressing a little bit of a different angle on that main topic. So you can have pins that call out to that specific section and use keywords just for that. And so that would have a different title than the blog post title. So an example of this might be, I had this gravel patio post that I shared this at Social Media Marketing World. And it's about how to make a gravel patio. But one of the subtopics within that is the best underlayment for gravel or weed barrier. And so I have a whole pin that's just addressing that keyword topic. So that's going to have a different title because I want to focus on the content that's about underlayments in that post and not just the whole gravel patio.
Huh? Wow.
Very cool. Well, I want to bring up some comments while we're talking here.
Sure.
So just because we're on the subject of keywords, and so Lorena says, yes, with keywords, I was able to get to 4 million monthly views in a very short time. I know Jennifer has something to say about monthly views, and we've talked about this before, but that's very, very cool. Very, very cool. And Martin says, guided search helps you finding the right keywords for your business, right? He's kind of a question there. Yes. And this is one, now, Lorena, this would be a Tailwind tip if you would have put the hashtag Tailwind tip. So if you hear some nuggets or you have a Tailwind tip, don't forget to do that so you can be entered for our selfie light. But she goes, I make keyword lists for each of my boards so I can easily copy paste them for each pin. That's a cool little tip right there. Yeah.
I have a question about that. So does that mean that you're just like pasting in a list of keywords, or are you using that as inspiration for your description? Because descriptions on pins really should be written for people as opposed to for search engines, which, you know, we used to keyword stuff with Google and eventually that stopped working. And Pinterest really wants useful descriptions. So yeah, okay. Yeah,
okay, one more question.
I would avoid the keyword stuffing. But what you could do is you could do something like have a spreadsheet or something with your keywords in there, and then that helps you make your descriptions.
Absolutely. Then you don't have to redo it every time. But I want to get back to Martin's point just really briefly about guided search being a great keyword search tool. Absolutely. Guided search is fantastic. You can go down some major rabbit holes if you keep clicking on those tiles, right? So if you don't know what it is, it's when you enter in the Pinterest search, you'll enter your keyword, hit enter, and then you see these little colored tiles below your search bar. Click on those. Those are Pinterest saying, hey, this is what other pinners who are interested in this topic also are interested in, or things that they search. If you keep clicking, you're going to get more and more detail. You can also use just the autofill. You'll get a few examples that way. But yesterday, Kate was asking me about, well, what about in ad groups, in Pinterest promoted pins, there is a tool that helps you expand your keyword targeting. Is that a good place to look for keywords? And I don't use it. I think it complicates things for people, and I know that there are numbers in there, but if you look at them, they're a little suspect. So, for instance, the keyword social media tips had fewer than 1,000 monthly searches, but the keyword for social media analytics supposedly had like 100,000 searches per month. So it's like there's something in there, and it's great for your ads, like to expand on what you're targeting. It's really great. But as far as picking actual concrete keywords, I would just stick to guided search. It's simple. It's easy. Anybody can do it.
Here's a question.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry. Go ahead and what you're going to say,
oh,
Jennifer.
that's okay. I was going to say it can be used as part of like the whole picture. I think if you become reliant on just like one thing, like you're like, I'm just going to use the ads tool to find keywords, then it may or may not be accurate. But if you compare it with the experience and guided search, now you've got more information.
Very
For
cool.
sure. It's just people tend to get really pulled in with numbers. And if you don't look at it objectively, like, does this really make sense? I mean, here's some good inspiration, but let's not bank on it.
Well, here's a question from, and I thought this is really good for Mary. And she goes, what if our pins are connected to a product rather than a blog? Does that make a difference?
Yeah. So you're still going to do the same thing with your keywords, right? Your title is going to have your keywords in it for whatever that product is. And you want to include, if you can, like a style. Let's say it's home decor. You want to put in like maybe rustic farmhouse sink or something like that. Yeah. So I don't want to get too hung up on keywords as, as a topic. We can absolutely do that, but like we want to talk about other places you can find keywords.
I want to do this because Lorena did say she was pasting and adjusting to specific pins. So we had that question how she was using that that list list. So anyway, wanted to clear that up. Thanks for doing that. Okay, moving on. We could do this.
Yes, moving on. Okay, so we had pin title. So Pinterest is looking for keywords in pin title. The next one is pin description, which we talked about a little bit too.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a hot button topic right now.
Right.
Oh, yes. Tell us why.
So on Pinterest, you guys may have noticed this, that sometimes the pin has a description and sometimes it doesn't. And it's becoming more frequent that it doesn't. And so you've typed this description, you've put it in there, you've pinned the pin, right? Because when you go to upload directly to Pinterest, you have a spot to put a description.
Yeah.
And then when you publish it, now it's just showing your meta description if you have rich pins enabled and your title, and then that description you typed, where did it go? Right. So that's a little bit problematic.
Right.
Yes, I have noticed that. But it appears that even when the pin description isn't showing, it's actually available on the pin. So it's in the background, still working for you with SEO, but yeah, I miss descriptions when they're not there personally. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, they give more information. And I think the other thing too, one of the things I've noticed in relation to the title is in the feed, sometimes it's not showing the titles anymore. It's just showing the images. Right. And so typically when I see Pinterest doing something like that, I'm like, oh, they're testing stuff. So we don't want to like jump to a conclusion right away, because usually they'll roll out some announcement of a change they made. So it's just saying, okay, and knowing that that's happening, I'm still going to use my descriptions.
Absolutely.
Even though they're not visible.
Right. Even though they're not visible, but they still seem to be impacting SEO because they are behind the scenes where we just can't see them. But obviously they can, because sometimes they show them, sometimes they don't. Yeah. So, I mean, the best we can do is the best we can do. And then we can change it later if we need to.
Awesome. And I want to pull up this because it is a tailwind tip from Helen. She goes, if you create an ad and scroll down, click continue on the first screen, scroll down keywords, you can even type in an idea and it'll come up. She's telling us about doing kind of the smart search. And so thank you, Helen. Yeah. She's the first one. So awesome. Yeah. Tailwind
that's
tip.
the thing we were talking about, where you can see that it will tell you how many monthly searches. Right. Yeah. Okay. So the next one is the board name or title. So Pinterest looks for those keywords in there. So use them. And when people ask, like, how many boards should I have? Well, to me, the answer really comes down to this SEO issue, right? It's as many boards as you need to support the content that you have. So if you need to have 100 boards, but but you could, right? What do you think, Jennifer?
Oh my gosh. So for my DIY blog, I have 283 boards. It is
a
nightmare to manage. Whoa. It's a lot. But as you're spread wider with the content that you cover, you need more places to put it. So I kind of think of Pinterest like your boards are like shelves in a store, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your content is like products on the shelves. So if you have more of that kind of product, you need more shelves to put it on. And if you have a lot of different types of products, now you're like Walmart and you need a gigantic store to put this plethora of products on.
Absolutely.
So if you stay narrow, things are a lot simpler.
Right.
It's true, but if you're Walmart and you put your toilet paper in with the cat food,
Keep it clean.
Actually, I think it is over there. Then people aren't going to know where to find it. So it's similar with Pinterest. Like the more specific you can be with your board names, according to what you need for your content, the better they'll be able to find it and distribute it for you.
Very true.
Yeah, and I think I have this rule that I kind of follow. I don't like to give hard and fast numbers for anything because I feel like it really varies based on the context of your specific business. Yeah. But I call it the 5 and 5 rule. So kind of a just quick and easy rule to kind of start off with is for every piece of content that you have, you should have at least 5 boards that you could put it on. And I'm not talking about your best of Jennifer's blog board. I'm talking about like a keyword specific board it can go on. And then for every board that you have on your Pinterest account, you should have at least 5 pieces of content or products that you can put on that board from your site. So that way you're not getting too thin, too wide in your scope.
That makes a lot of sense.
Great tip there. That was a great tip.
I like that. Okay, board description. I see a lot of boards without descriptions, and for a while, because as I was doing searches and all these boards would come up with no description, I thought, well, does it matter? I mean, obviously it's not the be all and end all, but as many places as you can tell Pinterest, hey, this is what my pin is about, I'm going to do it. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I think, it's one of those things where people say, okay, here's somewhere I can take a shortcut. But if you're going to do it, like, do it. Like you can only put so many characters in the title, right? So if you've got like multiple keywords that this board can be shown for, the description is your place that you could really drill down on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think what we need to say too is that we talked about the descriptions maybe go away sometimes, the title go away. That's not an excuse not to do it. Just because
right.
They're running tests, we don't want to go, I can skip that step, and it'll save me all this time. Well, just like you said, Elisa, that's that any place we can, even if they never show it, if Pinterest is giving us a place to put some data, we need to probably put some data there. I mean, until they tell us not to.
I think it's likely they're going to keep using most of those signals too, even if we don't see them, is my guess. So, how about, okay, the next one is kind of off Pinterest. They actually look at the linked content. So whatever your pin links to, they're going to look at your page title, the description, and even the main text on it to pull out keywords from there, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. They're very googly in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it more fun. So,
I want to pull up, can I pull up this question? Because we were talking about descriptions. And this is another tailwind tip from Amanda. How she goes, my favorite way of using description is to tell a story. I follow an author who has a favorite whiskeys board, and she explains in her board description that this is something she and her husband do together. It's charming. It makes you feel like you know her a bit better. So I think using it as storytelling, as long as you're using those keywords, is a great way to do that.
Yeah. Well, and I think we have to balance too, writing for the machine and writing for the human, because people are going to read these. Like obviously Amanda read this, right? And that established a connection with the reader that, Pinterest the machine isn't going to have like touchy-feely reaction to it.
Right, exactly.
Or favorite linker probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then this one's a little bit vague, but they also will kind of assign keywords to your pin if search queries frequently lead to a click on your pin. So let's say, for instance, somebody is searching favorite whiskeys and they click on your pin often. Pinterest will use that as a signal to say, okay, obviously this pin needs to have that keyword, favorite whiskeys. And pins can show up in a search even if they don't use that particular keyword for other reasons we'll talk about in a minute. But then as it starts to show up, it starts to get clicked for those queries. That's when Pinterest is like, all right, that keyword, that pin.
Very cool.
Yes. I mean, if any of you guys know Google SEO, like it's so similar. Like really, we got to think about Pinterest like a search engine. And so it's that thing of like where people click over, they have a good experience, they come back, they trust the platform. Like that's really what they want to have keep happening. Because just like Google, Pinterest makes money from ads. So they need you to keep coming back if you're, so you can look at the ads.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So there's another one too. The name of objects detected in an image, which now we're getting all fancy with
you're
AI.
getting nerdy. Now, what do you mean by that?
You're getting super fancy.
It's not fancy. It's nerdy. So talk about that. What is it? Yeah.
Oh, come on. So Pinterest is actually looking at the items in your photo. So if we're looking at my background, let's say Pinterest is going to say, oh, that's a chair over there, and there's a plant, and there's a door and a painting, and all of those keywords also are pulled out of there without you having to do anything, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a little freaky too.
It is really cool.
But it's cool.
And they do it with the words.
Yes, please talk about that one more, because that's the next one. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no. Go.
So it can pick up the text. It's imperfect, so definitely like avoid those scripty fonts if you can.
Amen. Preach.
Jeff's soapbox has been triggered.
Yeah.
So Jeff, we have a couple of images.
So it can,
go ahead.
It can read the image and the text.
Yeah.
I do want to pull up this because this is important from Amanda. She goes, let's hear it for the nerds. Whoop, whoop. So you are in a safe place. This is safe, Amanda, for you. You're among friends.
And I can give you guys a tip if you guys are reading that engineering blog and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going cross-eyed. There's like weird diagrams with cylinders and triangles.
Yes, the diagrams are the worst.
I don't know what they mean.
I mean, no offense.
Read the introduction paragraph, then scroll to the bottom and read the conclusion, and then skim it for words you recognize.
See, I do it.
Kind of piece it together.
I do it a little differently. I read the heading, and then I take a shot, and then I read a little bit, and then I take another shot. That works.
And then it goes and reads the tail.
Doesn't really help with comprehension, but it works to get through it. All right, so we've got some images here for you to talk about. So let's pull up this first one. So what are we looking at?
Okay, so this is where Pinterest, and this is from the Pinterest engineering blog, because they actually show how they look at an image visually with their AI and pull out what they think is in the image, and they assign what they call annotations, which we also know as keywords. So they were able to pull out, okay, this is a sloth sanctuary. That likely comes from OCR, from optical character recognition or reading the text. But they also could see, okay, it's a sloth. It's in Costa Rica. It's in the Caribbean. Animals travel. So they assign those keywords by looking at the actual image, which is super cool.
So how does this apply to us? So what do we take away from this? How can we use this, what we figured out?
So this is why Pinterest recommends that we feature our product or our service prominently in our pin images. So it's a little tricky sometimes for bloggers to do this, but e-commerce is it's kind of a no-brainer, or travel too. Just really show what you're offering in the pin. There are some things you can do with bloggers, but I think that's going to be more reliant on the text on the image. What do you think, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think some of the ways that we photograph stuff as bloggers is very creative. And while the human can recognize what that is, we're forgetting that Pinterest has an AI that's reading that image and trying to figure out what it's about. And so can I share this trick?
Yeah,
please.
Go for it.
Okay. One of the tricks that I do is I set up a secret board, and it's just called test. And like you can literally do this as you're shooting your images. Literally while you're doing your photo shoot, get one of the images, no name, no nothing on it, upload it to that test board, and immediately Pinterest will populate it with related pins. Now, this isn't totally accurate because when it first does that initial run through, it's just looking at the data on the image. And so it doesn't have like a whole ton of data, but you're going to get a pretty quick snapshot of what Pinterest AI thinks that image is, because you haven't given it any other data, right? You don't have a link, you don't have a title, you don't have the board's called test. It has no description. And so then you can see, okay, does Pinterest see this as a bundt cake or a pie? And literally there are so many examples I have where I've uploaded something and Pinterest does not understand what it is, where you could then adjust the camera angle a little bit and have it nail it. Like that's what we want. We want it to nail what the image is.
Yeah,
Wow.
I love that tip. And we have an image to show that too.
That is super smart, by the way. That's worth the price of admission today.
Smart.
I tell you.
I know.
So, Jennifer, do
so
you have...
we have that picture of...
I want to ask a question yet. I'm going to interrupt you because I want to ask a question. Sorry, because I think this is really cool. So, do you like when you're...
It is cool, but there's a picture.
I know, but I want to ask a question. And it's a blog, and it's a podcast. Remember, we have to just use our words. It's Jennifer. I'm sorry. It's always like this. But sorry, not sorry. Yeah, the thing that so you do a lot of DIY stuff. So do you struggle with Pinterest to see it? Like I can just picture like some of the DIY stuff when you're doing all. There's a lot of stuff on a lot of people's pins when I see those kind of things, the crafty kind of things. So what are some of your hacks for doing that? Do you really try to isolate certain things and do these tests, or are you? I mean, because I know a lot of people are interested in that.
Yeah, so some of it is just I have a body of 4,000 plus projects that I've done. And so on that test board, even for old things, I'll be like, why isn't this performing? I'll pull out the old JPEG that doesn't have any data, no edits, I'm loading my ugly photo that's not even edited. Right. And I'll put that in there in the test board so I can get some insights. Or if I'm like right now we're shooting, like literally I have a production assistant over in the other room who's painting pumpkins for a Beetlejuice Christmas tree.
Oh, fun. That's cool.
And so, yeah. So I can take some old pumpkin content that I've done previously and upload that to my test board and see, is it reading that correctly? So that as we're shooting this one, I can get insights as to how to take photos. Now I know just from experience that if I take pictures of the products on a white background, it's going to read it a lot easier. But there's also just, so having high contrast does work. Okay. And that's with DIY, like with food, the 45-degree angle shot, and especially if it's like something that has a slice or a fork or something like that really, really helps. That seems to be the best one in my experience. And there's somewhere I think it wouldn't work. And then I'll just upload it. Like I'll literally take the photo with my phone and upload it into my test board. And like there's one I have that's very busy and it's zoodles, like a tuna zoodle recipe. And Pinterest nailed it. It just knows. It matched it to tons of zoodles. I was like, awesome. And here's a tip for you guys that are doing this, like doing stuff with Instagram. Instagram has all the platforms have similar AI that reads images. Do this with Pinterest and then use that image on Instagram so you know that Instagram will also understand what that image is about. It's not perfect, right? It's not a one-to-one correlation, but it's a way to get some insight into that, especially if you're like not super techie.
No, very cool. So, see, this is why we have guests on our show. Is this reason right here? Yeah, super smart stuff. Awesome. I'm excited now. I'm all nerded out. Okay, I'll try to calm down. Take it away, Elisa.
Okay, so this image here is optical character recognition. So basically Pinterest showing you how they are reading text on your image, which is really neat because it's not just the text that you added on purpose, the bookshops to visit in Europe text. It's actually seeing the word books in the background. It's seeing a French word over on the left-hand side. So it's pulling out as much text as it can possibly read. And it's funny because that curly script there, the word bookshops is in curly script, and it can only read bookshops.
See, if they wouldn't have done the scripty thing, they would have got it. Proves my point.
Yeah. So think about the words that are in the background. So even if you're using books as a prop, think about those words. Pinterest is going to read those words. Are those the words that you want?
Cool.
Yeah. So the next image actually shows kind of a variation on Jennifer's amazing hack. So this is after you've already published your pin. You're going to go scroll down underneath your pin and look at more like this and ask yourself, did Pinterest nail it? Do they know what my image is? So in this case, we have Instagram 10 Instagram story ideas is the pin, and it's pulling out pins like how to take better Instagram photos on your phone, use Instagram to grow your blog, 600 hashtags for Instagram. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is handy too if you're using stock imagery. It's very, very important to make sure you have the text overlay and the keywords nailed, because there's probably 84 other people that use that same picture with the hand and the coffee cup.
Right. Yeah.
And it will match that. It will match that.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. And it's interesting to see the progression of how Pinterest has updated this, because maybe a year or so ago, I used to use that to figure out if I wanted to let Pinterest choose the targeting for our promoted pins. And when it would first upload to Pinterest seemed to have no idea what it was, and it would just match based on color and things like that. But then a week later, it would be better. 2 weeks later, it'd be really good. And now it seems like they are on it. It's pretty fast. So this
it's
is
like
reliable.
Skynet. It's Skynet. It's the rise of the machines. Is what
it's
gonna
everywhere.
Happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I love that hack. I especially love your hack, Jennifer, of having the secret board and not giving it any other context. Like, just figure out the image and get back to me.
Yeah, that is really cool.
It's a great way to put it to work for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So the last thing in keywords is what Pinterest calls on its blog lexical expansion, which real simply is not this. Lexical expansion just means that they are pulling out similar words. So if you use like gardening tips, they're also going to assign keywords like gardening ideas, or they're going to add a plural, or they're going to add, they're going to reverse the terms too. So you don't have to worry about doing tips for gardening tips. They do that for you. So you don't have to get carried away like that and end up accidentally keyword stuffing.
Gotcha. So what do we need to think of when we're creating pins based on that? I mean,
based on the lexical expansion part?
Because that's just, when you said that word, my eyes kind of roll back in my head. And
I understand.
So kind of make it a little,
Don't stress about it.
Okay.
Like, don't feel like you have to worry about plurals and singulars and order and like totally similar terms like tips and ideas. You don't have to. Yeah. Okay. So write like a human and don't stress about it.
I think that's important. Write like a human, because you still see those people who are, you're like, what language are you speaking? And they're trying to stuff. Anyway, we beat that dead horse for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to talk about something that I know is near and dear to Jennifer's heart, and this is hashtags. Okay. So let's forget the idea that, okay, what if we can't see descriptions, we can't click on hashtags. Let's forget about that for now. Talk to me about Pinterest hashtags and how they work with discovery.
Yeah, I look at hashtags as, it's funny because back in the early days, Pinterest was like, yeah, people are totally clicking hashtags. I was like, half the people I know that use Pinterest don't even know what a hashtag is.
That's true. Yeah.
It was like that.
It's a pound sign. It's a pound sign. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, because we're old.
I always looked at the hashtags as an additional place to put your keywords. It's another way that you can give a signal to Pinterest of like, hey, if you didn't figure it out from my image and my title and my description and the board and all of that, like, this pin is about tacos, FYI. So hashtag tacos, Pinterest. Like, that's the way I look at hashtags. It's like, hey, Pinterest, this is like really what this is about. And it's really for Pinterest. It's not necessarily for people.
Great point.
Very nice. So people will sometimes ask, okay, if that's the case, should I go back and add hashtags to old pins?
No.
Always
moving forward, never go back.
Always.
Right.
Yes, very good, because you drive yourself crazy. But if you do a keyword or a hashtag search, which is kind of interesting, you'll see it's in reverse chronological order. So it's it can help your newer content get surfaced, is what I've most recently heard from, I guess, the Pinterest business blog. But yeah, I think they're definitely, like you said, anytime, I think Jeff actually said it, anytime Pinterest lets you put data somewhere, just do it.
Right.
And I noticed something. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I was just going to say, I just want to have points that she said I said that. The other thing is I want to make sure that people know we're not just making this stuff up. Elisa went through and really pulled this stuff up out of the engineering blog, so you didn't have to. And she also did this awesome Pinterest toolkit that if you haven't downloaded yet, you need to go do. It's at bit.ly/Pinterest toolkit. That's bit.ly/Pinterest toolkit, all smashed together, all lowercase, because she made that too, and she's, I hate to admit, super smart as well. So you need to go get that.
I downloaded it. I did. I totally did. Right before the call, I downloaded. I was like, PSD templates, awesome.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Let me know what you think after.
There's easel templates,
an easel discount. Yeah. Thank you.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about keywords. We talked about hashtags. We need to talk a little bit about interests.
Okay.
So you cannot have Pinterest without interests.
That didn't rhyme. But go ahead. You tried. Points for trying. Tailwind trip. Don't
try.
Don't rhyme.
I even had to put that in the blog.
In the notes. You put that joke in the notes. That's good.
Anyway, so Pinterest actually maps every single one of their 175 billion plus pins to interests. Interests are central to everything that happens on Pinterest, which is pretty cool. So they did share how they mapped a specific pin to interest. If you want to pull that image up, I think this is like the best way to understand it. There are tens of thousands of them. So when Pinterest looks at your image, it pulls out what interests they think.
Is that the right one?
Here. That is the right one.
Okay.
So it can go down to 10 levels of what we'll just call a specificity. So what we're seeing here is like it's a level 3 match with dogs, level 2 with mammals. So that just means that the level 1 might be animals, level 2 is mammals, level 3 is dogs. So they're basically pulling out what interest does this pin match to, and they did a good job. So this is not something we can see, but it's something that they use to help categorize pins and figure out where to show them in home feeds and related pins. And it's also very useful for ad targeting. You can target people who have a certain interest according to Pinterest. They also use it to get rid of unsafe pins, like they're
dangerous
tracking down
pins.
Yeah, exactly. So there are like self-harm and all that stuff. They can tag those with interest and then they're gone, right? Yeah.
So I want to pull up this question because I don't know where this would really fit, but I think David brings up a question because we do get this every once in a while. He goes, how about sections? Pinterest sections, how do those work? Do we need to use them? I know you go ahead and explain what those are and then what you suggest.
Okay. Board sections are a way to further break down the topic inside of your boards. So they were originally created for people to use on their own accounts to categorize their information. So for me, I use it. I know I admit this freely. I have a board just for my hair. I use that probably more than any other board. I admit it. But inside of that,
we gotta.
I have a beard
it's
board.
not a simple thing. Of course you do, right? So inside of my hair board, oh, good, thank you. You probably have sections too. I have them for cuts, for styles, for products, for bangs, for colors, all kinds of things. And it helps me go back and find the pins that I want. I'm not using them to help other people. I think it's a secret board, actually. But Pinterest has said, at first they said, no, it doesn't influence search. Then they said it does. But in scouring the Pinterest engineering blog, I haven't found a mention of it being a factor in search. Have you, Jennifer?
Nope, no mentions. And there's a few challenges to using them as a business, right? As a user, it's great, right? Dinner recipes, and then you're going to have chicken and 30-minute and all that. But for categorizing your own content, so there's a few challenges I run up against with sections. One is when you are pinning to a section, you have to, it's another step, right, as far as you pinning. But when somebody comes to that board, it's another step for them to get to your content.
Right. Good point.
So it's harder for them to see stuff because they got to click again. The other thing is Tailwind does not schedule to sections. And so if you want to organize in sections, you have to go in and manually do that. And so with that whole thing overall, you have to ask yourself, why do I need sections for this? If you have enough content to break it into a section, you probably have enough content to make that section a board.
Oh,
and that's what I would do.
That's a quotable
perfect.
right there.
That's
Yes.
tweetable right there. So that's a Tailwind tip just for you guys playing at home.
Is a
And I don't
Tailwind
believe
tip.
sections have descriptions either. So again, you have less information attached.
I do want to pull up this question from Lainey. She goes, is interest the same as categories?
No.
Okay.
So there are tens of thousands of interests. When you advertise, you can actually see about 4,000 of them. And there are some interesting ones like I was trying to pull out some funny ones like cellulite and man cave and like just really funny ones.
Now, why would you put cellulite in with man cave? Man cave is perfectly fine to have. I don't know why you would throw it in there like that.
Well, I want to see the pin that's got that.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, don't you also want to know which interest is Pinterest pinging all around me? I'd like to know that, but yeah, they had some really wild ones when they first came out. They had man buns, and they had like something like steamroller or like some really odd things. But now when you look through, it's like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it would be hilarious to go there and be able to see the full list. I bet there's some real gems on
I
there.
think we would lose all faith in humanity.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can see like 4,000 of them, but yeah, the list of tens of thousands, super cool. Yeah. So did we show the image for that? I can't remember.
I don't know. It's gone downhill since you said cellulite and man cave. So let me pull that up. So I believe we do. So is that what you're talking about right there?
No, I think it was the one before. I think we talked about that already.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So those are the interests. So like dogs, mammals, animals. Yeah. All very reasonable interests right here. So thinking about, well, what do we do with this information? And it seems to me that the best we can do to influence what interest Pinterest maps our pins to is what we already talked about before, is the use of keywords everywhere. Because that's what it seems like they're looking at. They're maybe looking at the image as well. Image, text, keywords seems to be influencing the interest there. Mm-hmm. So, Jeff, we're kind of at a crossroads here.
How do you think you can get? I think we should plow forward. And
you think we should?
Yeah, because we've got 20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
we.
I'm gonna bring up the next one. You go. Okay. Yeah. Here we go.
Okay.
Now explain it. Remember that.
Now explain. Okay, so we talked about how Pinterest sees our pins, how they categorize our pins, and the next big thing we want to know, the important thing is, how do you get your pins ranked? How do they rank your pins? So the first one, let me see if we got the right, text relatedness. So Pinterest wants a good user experience, which means that the pin and the content you link to should be related. Which means that they want to find this keywords and these texts in more than one place. So they want to see it in places like your pin title, your pin description, your pin board title, the content on your website, and that gives Pinterest a really strong signal. Okay, we are confident that this is what this pin is about, and it's going to be a good user experience. So keep that in mind. I find sometimes I don't think about that too much, like how much overlap is there in words? But you want it to be natural. You don't want it to be, you're not trying to spam things. Right. Okay. Absolutely.
Just be clear.
Yeah, absolutely. But we want them to know that these two things are related,
right.
Which I think is great because over time it's going to filter out pins that like stolen pins that link to unrelated content. Pinterest is looking for these signals and they're just going to fall right out of the rankings, which is great.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the reason that they rank in the first place, the stolen pins, is because if you read the engineering blog, it will tell you like it goes just off the signals on the pin first because it takes some time for it to go crawl the site, and then it does like a daily indexing of the related stuff. So that's why those stolen pins are like, why is that stolen pin right up at the top? Well, because they're just going off of what's on the pin. And then once they comb through the site, then they can identify it's not a good one. They can take it out.
That is a great tip. Yeah. Okay. So then we have something that Pinterest calls pin cohesion. And there's kind of a lot to it, but it breaks down pretty simple. So is your image itself complementary to the text on your linked content? So we talked about that, like with e-commerce, you can do that pretty easily, right? The image on your pin is going to match the image on your linked content. In this case, it's not exact, but it's similar. So they want it to be similar in style. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. So people will ask, well, if I create 10 pins, then, I mean, it's not going to match, but you can keep it similar enough. Right?
So explain what we're seeing in this image here.
Okay, so we're seeing some image similarity. So this is something Pinterest wants to see. They want to see similarity between the pin itself and the content that you go to. It's not the exact pin, but you can see it's very clear that you're in the right place, because we have a photo of we have lobster trap buoys, I guess, and it's Boston to Bar Harbor, New England road trip. On the left is the pin, and it's a 4-image collage. On the right, we have the actual blog post with the blog header image that says the same thing, Boston to Bar Harbor or New England road trip. And it just has the image of the buoys, but it's clear that these are related.
But we've talked about this for years, because just as a human standpoint, if you're clicking on a pin and it's going to something that looks totally different, it freaks out your people anyway. They don't want to go to spam. And so this is kind of almost best practices that, we've talked about as Pinterest people for a long time.
Absolutely. It builds trust too. It's like, am I in the right place or not? Yeah. Okay. So, and I feel like everything Pinterest does for ranking is with that in mind. Like, what is the best user experience here? Those are the pins we want to rank.
Very cool.
Okay. All right, the next one. Okay, so this is from the engineering blog too. So these are semantically related image pairs, which really just means that Pinterest has annotated the image on the left as like a kitchen cart, and it's annotated the image on the right as a kitchen cart. Even though they visually don't look the same, they're at a different angle, they have different items in them. The one on the left is full of magazines and all kinds of things. The one on the right is just standalone. Because of the way Pinterest has assigned those text annotations to both images, it's clear to them this is the same thing.
And I think this points out what Jennifer was saying earlier, how she would test this. Like, maybe some of us wouldn't think of doing it at that like 45-degree down angle, but that helps Pinterest algorithm see what this is supposed to be. So having multiple images when you're doing a shoot, and I don't know whose bookcase looks that neat. Holy cow, mine are like scraps falling off of it, balanced and stuff. So, but I think taking multiple images, like if you're doing a photo shoot and doing all these different angles, and then doing what Jennifer said and testing those to make sure that Pinterest is grabbing the right, it's understanding what it is, I think is key. But I think this is a good example of that.
Right. So they're very clear about the fact that this is a ranking signal.
I love this. Lorraine says, Pinterest is magic. It's crazy how they do this. It is magic. It's black magic, but it's really cool.
It is. And we've talked about that. I think even last show we were like, Pinterest is part science, part art, and part magic. Like, but this week we're really breaking down some of that magic is really just super smart computers and people. Okay, so the next one is...
It's not quite Beetlejuice pumpkins, but there's some pumpkins going on.
Yeah, dollar store pumpkin makeovers, in fact.
Yeah.
So this one is just illustrating that Pinterest wants to see image to text similarity wherever possible. That will help your pins rank. Now, for a lot of bloggers, you can't really do that. Like, you might have to use a flat way with text, but they want to know, is the image complementary to the text on your linked content? Okay, so there's a pin complementary to the post. Is the text on your pin related to the keywords in your linked content? We talked about that too. That actually really matters. Yeah.
Very cool.
So make sure they match.
Okay, and the next one.
Okay. The
I
next
don't know
one we all
if
kind
okay.
of
Old
knew, right?
make sure they need to put old washed socks. Okay, how to make fabric pumpkins from old socks? They need to make sure they're washed. Just want to say, because I could just see those
Yeah.
put those in somebody's living room and driving people out. So just
Well,
make it
why don't
clear.
even have to be old socks? I mean, but anyway, it's a cute pin. Yeah, so this one is the one we all kind of know plays a part in ranking, which would be popularity. So, yeah, we're looking at this one has been pinned 14,000 times. We're also looking at engagement as a ranking factor. So someone has uploaded a photo on their pin, as you can see, and also it has 3 comments on it. So I have never seen any like information to show which are most important, but just the more engagement you can get, the better your pin is likely to rank.
Very cool. Well, these are all great examples. Look at this. Let's pull up some comments. I want to bring up some. So Amanda says Pinterest equals alchemy, the place where science and magic combined. And then Laura says, and part cruel and she goes, and part cruel and fickle beast. That's the way we feel a lot of times, Laura. Thanks for joining us. Laura's here almost every time. She's awesome. Thank you for coming. So
funny.
I know I need a tattoo of that or something. I don't know.
I'm a cruel and fickle beast.
Yes. Sure. Well, Pinterest is.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Laura wasn't saying that about herself. Come on, she's a nice lady.
No, I was talking about you.
Oh, okay.
Very nice. Okay.
You should make a pin like that and see if Pinterest ranks it in search.
That's right. That'd be a good idea.
Report back, please.
Yes, new experiment. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so then it comes down to personalization. So I always think it's kind of funny when somebody says, my pin is ranking for blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's not that simple. Like on Google, you can go in and do an incognito mode, and you can search for keywords, and you'll get an unbiased report of what is ranking best for a certain keyword. The reason you have to do that, of course, is because when you search yourself, those are personalized recommendations. So Pinterest does the same thing, but I think they do it to a much larger degree, it feels like, than Google, because Pinterest wants to be that search and discovery engine. So these personalized factors, to me, are what brings in the discovery. So they know a little bit about you. Like even if you didn't enter your gender or your age when you signed up, they're figuring it out based on what you do, which is pretty cool. And the reason I know that for sure is because I asked my ad manager, I said, look, I want to try some ad targeting with age ranges, but I'm afraid that if I select a certain age range, I'm going to exclude all those people whose age you don't know. I said, is that going to happen, or do you have ways of knowing? She's like, oh, we have ways of knowing. So yeah, they know who you are. So they're going to share pins that other people who are like you have also been interested in.
Here's a good question for both you two, because I know you guys do a lot of promoted pins. So do you always run a pin first to really nail the SEO before you put money behind it for a promoted pin? Or are you confident enough that you can go right in with the promoted pins and make a pin that was work? I want to know, because I wonder if you guys have the same opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we do. You want to go first, Jennifer?
Well, I do all organic.
You don't do any paid at all?
I don't do any paid right now. Yeah. So, and for my DIY blog, it's 100% organic.
Very cool.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's just because, yeah. Anyway.
Because she's killing it. She doesn't need to pay for it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's for other people. So I go ahead and promote it right away, because the SEO, the performance that's all about distribution. With paid, I am paying for the distribution, so I can make it happen. I just have to worry about my targeting. Like, am I using the right keywords? Am I using the right audiences? But I mean, if you were going to do that, like if you were going to run a pin organically and then choose, you kind of want to look at things like click-through rate, because having a really high click-through rate means that you're going to pay less for your ad. But just because you have a high click-through rate on organic doesn't mean you will on promoted, because on promoted, you're picking the audience. So if you don't choose well, your click-through rate's going to go down. So basically what I'm saying is just go ahead and promote it. You're probably going to get a lot more information quicker if you promote it, even if you don't spend that much.
Awesome. Well, we've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to do rapid fire for you guys because we got some great questions. Carrie asked,
we have 2 more factors, but we can. Okay.
What do you want to answer questions, or do you want to do your factors? I'm going with questions.
Let's answer the questions. Yeah.
Okay, so this is what Carrie says. With Pinterest wanting similar images, should we not utilize hidden images? Should we be working them somehow into the post?
I have seen this.
Jennifer, go first.
Go first, Jennifer.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I'm doing, because I don't want to work that hard, is I just make all of my images vertical. Every image, like if you look at my newer blog posts on that DIY blog, every image is a vertical image if I can do it, unless a sponsor asks me not to make it vertical. So I treat every image as a potential pin. I don't hide pin images anymore. Really what that's about is, like, Pinterest can tell, like, you make a pin and you've got the text overlay on it, and then you have that same image but without the text overlay on your site somewhere. It will match those. It knows. So you don't have to like have it be verbatim the same image. So yeah, as long as you have something similar, and it doesn't have to be the same shot either. It can match it. Like if you took this and like cropped from here, it would match the whole thing. It's pretty smart.
Cool.
Yeah.
Was that, you agree?
That's exactly what I would say too. Yeah.
Okay.
So some similarity in style or theme is all I would worry about.
All right, next question. See, I'm gonna just nail these out here.
Go.
So okay, it says, and this is from Melissa. She goes, question, group boards and SEO. I have some boards where others have pinned content I don't think matches. Based on what you say, I think this may harm some of my content. Is it best to start fresh with a new non-shared board where I can control the content? Jennifer, what about you? What do you say? What say you?
Okay, so for group boards that you control, absolutely part of your job as the owner is to make sure that people aren't going all willy-nilly pinning yucky stuff that doesn't match. So I would clean that up or pay someone to clean that up for you. But as far as like your own board, you should always, at least in my opinion, you should always have a board that is yours, that is the same topic or similar to the group board, so that you're not reliant on the group board. And I am someone that gets kicked off of group boards regularly because I push the envelope so hard. So I'm like, I don't ever want to be dependent on a group board only, because they could kick me off tomorrow.
Wow, I had no idea you were such a renegade.
She's a rebel. She's
I get kicked off of them so bad.
Oh, we needed to make a T-shirt for her, like, ex group board member or something, and like have like pinstripes like in the old jail thing. All right, so
but I think we need to address something else there though, because Pinterest group boards are not as good for distribution as they used to be.
See, that's the question. I was going to ask it, and I knew you were going to say this. So, can you address group boards? Are they still relevant?
I mean, Pinterest made them for people to collaborate. So if you have a group board where people are actually collaborating, great, wonderful. But if you have a group board where people are just dumping content and that has nothing to do with anything, then it's a waste of time, because really Pinterest has hinted that they're really just distributing the content in the group boards to the group board members. So if those members don't care about your content, just don't bother.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's why I use Tribes. Not plugging it or nothing, but yes. So I love,
plug it.
I love Tribes. That's like group boards on steroids. I use that more. I don't even use group boards anymore because I just use Tribes. Because why would I use group boards when I can have something that I can track it and people will scratch my back, I scratch theirs, and if I need content, I can go there. End of rant. Let's see. We had some great last questions. Somebody did ask, so this would be a great segue. Jennifer, where can people find you? What's the best place to find you and your content?
So they can find me at smartcreativesocial.com, and I have a Facebook group. You just type in Smart Creative Social, it'll come up, and you can find me both of those places.
Very cool. And I do want to pull up this comment from Amanda. Tailwind tip, I haven't found group boards to be as effective in the last couple of years, and I switched to focusing on Tailwind Tribes instead. See?
Lovely.
Great minds think alike, Amanda. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see. We do have a question. Lost that one. Anyway, So thanks so much, Jennifer, for coming. We are right at the end of the show. Don't forget to go and grab this awesome Pinterest toolkit. What's all these? We've been talking about these templates that Isla has provided, and there's PSDs in there. Jennifer scored them. I scored them. So go and get them. It's free. It's awesome. Thank you all for participating in the show today with the hashtag Tailwind Tip. We'll put the one person who won that selfie light in the comments later. But thank you so much for watching, everybody. We really appreciate it. Elisa, I'll let you have the last word. As always.
Oh, I just want to say that Jeff and I have wanted to have Jennifer on forever because she's a super smarty. And I
yeah, this is just part one. This is just part one.
Yeah, we'll be back for more. So thanks for being here.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.